Oh, hi, John. Hi.
Hi from the New York Bureau. Mooks, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is.
Morning.
Hi.
From your Studio 54 Disco Cave. Good morning.
Welcome to the disco basement. Yes, my entire life is finding a different corner of this apartment to do your show in every Friday.
Can I just say I couldn't wait to talk to you about your tweet. Dear media, stop saying the shooter was deeply religious. People of any faith who murder other people don't actually read their alleged holy book. Hashtag stop Asian hate. I mean, really, he was religious, carried a Bible around when he was in high
So
school.
religious, and he had a gun and killed people. You know, when you're killing people, I think we're allowed to say your religious grasp is pretty shallow. Actually, I don't think you've waded too far into the ecclesiastical pool. These people create God in their own image. And that's why when I hear God and guns, I'm like, oh, okay, great. My favorite religion is oxymoron American. But the media does it. It's like, you know, what a deeply religious Muslim to fly a plane into a building. What a deeply religious Christian to take out a gun and kill. No, you are the opposite of deeply or maybe you're just, you know, maybe that is what deeply religious is. Maybe religion is getting so far away from what your holy book teaches because you're part of one of God's unauthorized fan clubs.
Yeah.
But either way, it's like, stop slapping these labels on these murderers.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, but that's like calling Chip Roy a public servant, you know? No.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Yeah, so he was, the latest we're learning, he was in an addiction center for sex addiction. He blamed his sex addiction on pornography. He told the guy he was in the rehab with that he had been seeing a young woman, and his alleged sex addiction, in particular his frequenting of spas, had ended the relationship. He was uninterested, though, in going to any kind of therapy that was not specifically related to the church.
Yeah,
I mean, you talk about this all the time, John, but this intersection between people perverting, like you say, whatever their religious beliefs are with violence.
Yeah, and again, you know, sex addiction. He was 21. He was a 21-year-old guy. That's sex addiction.
Right.
And you know, but I mean, but look at how it's all enabled. Like, he was allowed to do this by a culture that set him up. I mean, he has agency in what he did, don't get me wrong, but when you see the police force that having a sheriff say, well, he had a bad day, you know, and saying that even though he killed Asian people, 6 Asian women, we don't think it was a hate crime against Asians. And no one said the fact that it's definitely a hate crime against women.
Yeah.
No one said it because they don't even think that way.
Yeah, thank you. That's already a hate crime. Yeah.
What was it, a love crime against Asians?
Well,
For God.
And since when do we take the shooter's word, who, you know, I'm sure has a rudimentary understanding of that if you say it was racial, that's a hate crime charge, which is more serious. Like, really? Oh,
He's
we'll take
white and has guns. Why shouldn't they believe him? These are Southern sheriffs. He's a white guy with guns.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like, oh, well, the murderer told us it wasn't about race, so we're going to go with that and tell you people.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I said, by Friday, we will know every racist thing the sheriff's ever done.
Yeah.
It took less than 2 hours, and we learned he was selling Trump racist anti-Asian shirts a year ago. We were talking about this on your show a year ago when Trump went to those godless Christian white brats in Arizona and talked about the Kung flu, you know, and got an applause break for it. It's like their lack of empathy is their strength. Their cruelty is their strength. That's what they get off on. Their only ideology is us and screw you.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Harlan Ellison said it. You are not entitled to your opinion. You are entitled to your informed opinion. No one is entitled to be ignorant.
Yeah. Speaking of years ago, you and I, we've done Sexy Liberal with Ted Lieu now, twice, right? Twice he has graced our stage. And I just love him. Obviously, he's been on this show a million times. But I just thought, can we hear him? Yes, I just thought he was so eloquent yesterday on the House floor.
I'd like to now respond to the ranking Republican member today at the hearing. I previously served on active duty in the United States Air Force. I'm very aware of who the bad guys are and who our foreign enemies are. But this hearing is about Americans of Asian descent who are being targeted in the United States. And it's not about policing speech. I serve on active duty, so you can say whatever you want on the First Amendment. You can say racist, stupid stuff if you want.
Yeah, exactly. But then he said, don't stop using the terms.
But I'm asking you to please stop using racist terms like Kung Flu or Wuhan virus or other ethnic identifiers in describing this virus. I am not a virus. And when you say things like that, it hurts the Asian American community. Whatever political points you think you are scoring by using ethnic identifiers in describing this virus, you're harming Americans who happen to be of Asian descent. So please stop doing that.
Yeah. Good for him. Good for him. And we just played Grace Meng, who was, understandably emotional. Like, stop! You're putting targets on our grandparents' backs, on our kids. I mean, it's 150%. John, that's a lot. Are up in Asian attacks. That, as you say, shows you what the bully pulpit is. You draw a straight line to that. And as you were just saying, Trump saying China virus and Kung Flu. He just said it 2 nights ago on Fox. He said it 2 weeks ago at CPAC. Yeah.
He said it on Maria's show the other night. After the shooting, he came out and said China virus again. And by the way, I call my MAGA hat my China hat because that's where it originated. I mean, it's no different than Pocahontas. It's like it was intended. When he says Pocahontas, it's racist because it is intended as a slur. It is intended to hurt. And racism that doesn't bother you is still racism. And I think we can agree racism in 2021 in America is the denial of racism. The average white racist doesn't believe something's racist until they hear a white person say the N-word on tape. And then they, the white person, will declare, okay, it's officially racist.
Yeah.
I mean, it's institutionalized racism when it's white people deciding what's racist.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing we can all unite in is our hatred of Rand Paul, don't you think? I mean,
hatred is a strong word. I have nothing but sympathy for children of racists. But yeah, I mean, Rand Paul, he's so anti-science. He's not a real doctor. That's how anti-science he is. He's so anti-science, he has a fake certification to do eye surgery. That's keeping it real.
Yeah. But we were talking to Dr. Redlener yesterday, John, and it is so just endlessly frustrating for all of us that have been in this lockdown, particularly single, for the last year. But all of us, the fact that we're in such a race between the variants and the vaccine. And we have idiots like Rand Paul calling masks theater when every expert is like, it is too soon to reopen, to stop wearing masks. And I feel like, the fact that Joe Biden really is doing such an amazing job and that we've hit 100 million vaccinations in 58 days, it's the only thing that might save us from the stupidity of, half the country, who listens to people like Rand Paul and thinks we can reopen and we don't need masks now.
Yeah, when Donald Trump was doing that appearance and he accidentally said the word herd mentality instead of herd immunity, that might have been the most honest thing Donald Trump ever said. And, but that's the whole thing, right? Like, they think empathy is weakness. They think wearing masks is theater. These are the same people who think that having background checks on guns so mentally ill people can't fire off 30 rounds before reloading is weakness. They think having a deal with Iran so we're not enemies is weakness. And their idea of strength is a guy with fake hair, fake tan, fake teeth, who's a fake president. I mean, but I have so much hope in the American people because, look at Georgia. Again, everything that we were inspired by. Look at how the more I read about the Rescue Act, Stephanie, the more incredible it is that it was old moderate Joe Biden who brought us the most progressive piece of legislation, maybe of our lifetime.
Thank you. Yeah.
And by the way, I think one of the best moves of the week, for me, the highlights of the week in politics were seeing how terrified Mitch McConnell really is.
Yes.
Oh my God, girlfriend. She is. Oh my, like Mitch is, I haven't seen Mitch look like that since they opened up the Ark of the Covenant and his face went that way.
Started melting.
He's so terrified. Like, we're going to obstruct you with everything we can obstruct you with if you take away our favorite thing to obstruct you with. And by the way, here's everything we're planning on doing, just so you know in advance, because I have no game whatsoever. And I have 17% approval in my own state. But
we just said this, John. The stuff that Democrats want to pass is wildly popular. He's terrified. They're not going to be able to take it away. The stuff he threatened to pass is wildly unpopular, and he doesn't have the votes for it. So you're right.
The only way it passes.
Mitch, please.
I mean, this Voting Rights Act is incredible. It's very, very simple. It more or less just says Every American has a right to vote however they want,
Yeah.
and it kills gerrymandering, and it can change democracy in this country and make it look more like democracy.
Yeah.
I mean, when Mitch said, "Oh, the Senate's evenly split among Americans are evenly split." No, the Democrats in the Senate represent 40 million souls more than Republicans.
Yeah.
It's not an even split. It only looks that way because of their corruption. So the filibuster has to go. But Joe Manchin, the most powerful man in America, has steadfastly said, no, we're going to keep it. And I'll give Biden credit. He came up with a third way this week. People are saying keep it or kill it. And Biden came out and said, well, let's just Jimmy Stewart it.
Right.
Let's just
Yes.
change the rules. So everyone who wants to use the filibuster can't send an email saying I object and then it's tabled. No, get up there with a phone book and show how committed you are, Ted Cruz, and talk for 7 hours if you really want to stop the people's business. And you know what? After Biden said that, Manchin then said he'd be open to some kind of reform. They are negotiating right before us.
Thank you.
And I'll give Biden credit. He found a third way, and this could change our entire country.
We've been saying this all morning, John. In fact, we have tape of Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, as you know, I will talk till I drop if they try to do that voting rights thing. If they want to talk and filibuster.
Please do.
Yes, I think we have tape of it.
My chiffon is wet, darling. My chiffon is wet. My wig is wet. I am tired. I can't. I am exhausted from all this. I'm overwhelmed.
He will have to get some sexalettes, some flyboys behind him, but he can do it. He can do it 24-hour, I think.
Oh, Lindsey, he makes me ashamed to be a closeted gay man who hates himself. He really does.
John, speaking of, we were just talking about, Trump, and I've said they've lost control of their orange monster who is currently putting on the Ritz, but he has lost control of his monsters now. I don't know if you saw this. What? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Eric, what would Eric do?
When Trump told Fox News' Maria Bartiromo this week that Americans should get the COVID vaccine, many of his supporters refused to listen. Instead, they say they still don't trust it. QAnon conspiracy theorists say it was not Trump on the call. So that's the new... influential QAnon followers have pushed misinformation about COVID vaccine, including claims that it will alter your DNA and turn people homosexual and transgender. They are desperately trying to square how their leader would support the vaccine, even take the vaccine and risk turning into a gay. One of them said, hey, guys, I listened to it again, how he greeted Maria and how he spoke to her. That wasn't him. So it doesn't matter what he says or does. QAnon has a different...
A news segment without video is like a book without pictures for these folks. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for years we've watched Donald Trump and the Republican Party be parasites feeding on conservative white people. But now the parasites are feeding on each other. And it's kind of beautiful when you have Trump doing cease and desist so they can't use his name in fundraising. And at the same time, they don't want Trump showing up at candidate events for 2022 because Trump is just touting his own super PAC, which is how he's putting their money right in his checking account. I say get out of the way and let them eat each other.
Yeah.
All these folks saying, well, that you should call it Trump vaccine, name the vaccine after Trump, because Trump came up with the vaccine, and no way am I ever taking that damn vaccine.
Yeah. John, as one of the titans of progressive talk radio, I love this story. Conservative talk radio host Dan Bongino, who will soon be taking over a lot of Rush Limbaugh's time slots, is not happy that Joe Biden is making his job harder. He bemoaned the lack of material given to him by Biden, who just passed a massively popular COVID relief bill and is enjoying a plus 15% nut job approval rating per Gallup. He said, I think Biden's a disaster for the country. His ideas are an atrocity, but he's boring. He's just boring. At least we agree on something. Boring. Competent, boring. He said, Biden, not only don't think he's a terrible president in these last few months, it's just terrible for talk radio. I beg to differ. John Fugelsang's show has never been better. Our show's never been doing better. We're doing fantastic. He's boring, and again, I think he's terrible, but you want to cover it in a way people find interesting without just saying every day Biden's terrible. That's not a show. Right. Right. He recently was rebuked by his bosses for peddling the election lie, about the big lie. That's the thing, John. If they can't lie, they don't have anything in right-wing talk radio. It really is just Biden's terrible, which is, of course, belied by his popularity and the popularity of everything he's passing thus far, right?
Once again, it's the island of misfit smears, and lies are all they've got. Right. Only 9% of the money actually goes to COVID. Lies are all they've got, and lies only work on the bubble if there's high voter turnout. What matters most is that Democrats have a lot of people show up to the polls in 2022. Yeah. That's it, because that's what wins. It's been proven.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
and nobody, by the way, is terrible.
Patriotism.
No matter what side of the aisle, as you know, nobody's terrible for talk radio unless you're a terrible talk show host. It's all about being entertaining, no matter who's in power. And they just, you're right, they just don't know how to operate without lies and without, and with a president that is wildly popular, right?
Well, but also it's interesting because, Bill Clinton was very easy to make fun of, right? Barack Obama was a lot harder to make fun of. And so they had to go to their tropes and their racism and their code talk and their dog whistles. Joe Biden is so hard to hate. I said a year ago, if it had been Elizabeth Warren, I would have been happy. If it had been Bernie Sanders, I would have been happy. I would be happy with any of those Democrats. But I even as someone who loves Bernie, I always said, if Bernie's the nominee, it's going to be a referendum on socialism.
Yep.
And same with Warren. But if Biden's the nominee, it'll be a referendum on Trump. And the smart thing about running the old white guy with a lot of name recognition is they can't smear him the way they smeared Hillary Clinton and the way they smeared Barack Obama.
I just was going to say, John, misogyny and racism.
No one's buying Biden merch.
Yeah.
No right-wingers are buying anti-Biden merch, but anti-Hillary and anti-Obama merch are still selling.
Yeah. No, I was saying, obviously misogyny and racism, and you're right, but you're right with Biden. It's whatever you feel. It's just hard to make people hate Uncle Joe. He's just, and he's doing great stuff that is wildly popular. And you're right. It's not okay. He's not terrible for progressive talk radio. It's if you know how to do a funny, entertaining show. But it's like you're right. All they have is lies, and if all they're doing on right wing radio is Biden's terrible. The majority of American people don't feel that way, right? It's just a lie.
His German Shepherd doesn't look presidential, Stephanie. His German Shepherd really doesn't look
good boy, and he's back. Major's back in the White House. Good boy.
Biden's already got his tan suit moments like 50 days ago. So they're scared. So we got to keep the pressure on, and we have to ridicule them. Thank God there's no shortage of villains. Donald Trump is going to be bleeding the RNC.
Yeah.
The RNC is going to be doing everything they can to not need Donald Trump while they're all codependent on him. And these racists are going to run around in Congress trying to go from Blue Lives Matter to F the police.
Yeah.
And have Louis Gohmert and the band of 12 remove all reference to what happened on January 6th when they're honoring the cops who died on January 6th. Let them keep screwing up. Let them be the party of old white guys with impacted colons who watch Hannity and break off into discussion groups. America's getting too big for this, and I'm tired. I'm so tired of being embarrassed of white men.
Yep, absolutely.
There's good white men out there. Jimmy Carter, Travis. I'm sure there's more, but I'll tell you, I'm so tired of being so embarrassed by heterosexual white men that let them marginalize themselves.
Yep.
There's more of us than there are of them. And if we get this voting rights bill passed and kill gerrymandering, that's it.
I know. All right. 52 minutes after the hour. We love you, John. Go to sexyliberal.com. An amazing 10th anniversary show coming your way April 10th. Get your tickets now.